Hello, adventure racers. William Wild Bill Donahue here with the 2018 national champion adventure racer, Nicki Driscoll from Team Rootstock Racing. Nicki, how's it going out there?
Going good. How are you?
I can't complain. It's summer. Uh, I'm vaccinated, right? So I'm out there and trying to race. But I understand you just had a great race up in Maine, where you were the top solo adventure racer, and I think second overall in the race.
Yeah, that's correct. Had a great time up in Maine. It was a really fun race. I feel like there needs to be a little asterisk after that top solo racer because I did race with the Rootstock team for the majority of the race. We had five racers who were interested in racing, and the premier category was a co-ed 3-4 division. So we decided to race as a team of four and a solo, and I threw it right away, signed up to go solo because I've been working on my navigation for the past few years, and so I really take advantage of any opportunity I can get to really work on the maps a bit more. And Brent Freeland was navigating for the main rootstock team. So it was a really good opportunity for me to navigate alongside him and,
Yeah.
get a little bit of mentoring and experience that way. So we raced together and co-navigated for much of the race and then split off towards the end.
Okay. So have you raced solo before?
Yeah, I've done a few races solo. I definitely more often race with Rootstock as a team, and I definitely prefer racing as a team. I just think it's more fun. But I have done a number of races solo, and that's a really fun experience too. You really get to push your own personal limits because you're
Yeah.
not waiting on anybody else, and it's just as fast as you can go. And again, you're totally relying on yourself for navigation too. So it's a little fun racing solo as well sometimes.
Yeah. All right. So I know in 2018, Rootstock had their like two teams sort of join up into a super team and like had the goal, I think, to stay together the whole time, no matter what was going to happen. Right.
Not
Um,
necessarily. We
oh,
went
okay.
out we
Oh,
went out there with the goal of let's try and race together because we knew we
okay.
had two really fast squads. We didn't really have an A squad and a B team. Like we
Yeah.
knew that they were both fast. And so the plan was just let's go out and try and race together. And if at any point it feels like one team is faster than another, we split off. Like
Okay.
team is not going to wait for, a teammate who's had a mechanical issue or any issue like that. And just
Okay.
luckily the race went really smoothly. We never had any issues with anybody bonking really seriously. And so we were able to just stick together and race together the whole time, which was awesome.
So,
We
so was that the?
contemplating splitting up a few times during that race, but it
Oh,
never happened.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I'll ask you about that another day. But what I'm curious about is what the plan was for you being solo up in Maine, right? Where if you weren't feeling it, was it leave Nikki behind, or was it like no, we're gonna like treat this as an opportunity as much as possible to develop your nav stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. We went into it with I'm gonna try and stick with you guys. If at any point I'm slowing the team down, you guys go because the co-ed 3-4 division is the premier division, and there were a few other really good teams at this race. Strong
Yeah.
Machine and Untamed. And so we wanted the rootstock team to go for the win. And so we went into this race, had a conversation beforehand. If at any point I'm having an issue or if I'm, getting low, like you guys go, split off. And so that was kind of like the goal at the beginning.
Hmm.
And then we always knew along the line, like we had planned ahead of time, there was a pack rafting section. We did not know ahead of time where in the race that was going to be. But we kind of knew that we would probably split up at the pack raft section because that team was going to be in two tandems and I was going to be in a solo. And tandems are faster than solos generally. So we kind of knew that we were going to split up when we got to the pack rafts. And up in Maine, we got kind of lucky. The course flow, we ended up on the pack rafts, one of the last sections of the race. So I actually
Okay.
was able to stick with the rootstock squad for much of the race until we went to go put in on the pack rafts, and I said, "See you later. Good luck. I'll see you at the finish." So those guys took off, and I ended up finishing not too long after them.
Yeah. Wow. So in preparation, then, what's it like trying to prepare for a solo race where, I mean, part of the goal is, you're going to learn some nav from like one of the premier navigators in the sport right now. But also that like at any point in time, you could also just sort of be on your own. How do you mentally get ready for that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, throughout the race, I was on the maps at all times, and Brent and I were working together. And so that was really important that I never slacked off nabbing and just, at times Brent was definitely leading, but I had to be definitely on it, knowing that, okay, what if we split up? I need to know exactly where I am and be kind of on my game with navigation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say I went into it really hoping that I could stick with the team through the night, because this is the first 24-hour that I had raced solo, and
Yeah.
I wasn't really looking forward to being completely alone in the middle of the night. And I'm pretty glad that I got to stick with the team for most of that. So yeah, I was trying to kind of mentally prepare myself for the potential that I could end up, totally racing by myself through the night for the first time, which would have been an interesting experience. And luckily I got to stick with the team, because there was actually a pretty nasty bog that we crossed through in the middle of the night. And I said this to the team after, I'm like, I'm so glad I was with you guys for that, because I would have freaked out if I was by myself neck deep in this bog at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty glad I was with them for that. Most teams actually went around that bog, but we went straight through it.
Let's see, that's Brent for you.
Oh yeah, it's the shortest path. Even if it's unpleasant, we're gonna do it.
So what did you learn from Brent? What sort of tricks did you pick up? How has your navigation improved because of this experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I saw specific things that tips or tricks that I picked up. I will say I was really impressed at how well he navs at high speed. So there were sections where we were on mountain bikes in these twisty, turny, fast trails, and just the fact that he could constantly keep track of exactly where we were in which turns, and these really bumpy, so your handlebars are going all over the place, and I'm like having trouble following the maps during that. So that was pretty impressive, and that was kind of a bit of a learning experience for me to see, like, okay, I really need to work on naviging at this high speed, because if I were by myself there, I might have slowed down a little bit to just like check the map a few more times and stop rattling handlebars for a second. But yeah, I think Brent always has really interesting, really good strategic decisions, and that is ultimately what won Rootstock the race in Maine. Is there was a big pack raft and trek section up north in the night, and you were allowed to drop your pack rafts anywhere you wanted on that section. And we made the decision to drop them very, very early. And there were a few points further to the north that we would then have to get on foot because we left our pack rafts behind. And they were out on peninsulas or, on the coast around these big inlets. And so we had made this strategic decision that we were going to, leave our pack rafts, do everything on foot and be really light and fast. But that meant we would probably have to swim some of these northern checkpoints because we didn't have our rafts with us.
Okay.
And so we made that decision before the race when we saw the maps, and that was a really, really smart strategic decision. And I don't know that that's necessarily a decision that I would have made on my own. I love being a part of Brent's kind of decision-making strategy and seeing, oh, okay, that's a really good idea. I might not have thought of that.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a really good decision.
Yeah, and especially as pack rafts sort of take off and become more and more popular, it's interesting to see that as a strategy that sort of worked in this race. And I'll be curious to see what RDs do in the future, how much they incorporate, the ability to sort of ditch it or keep it and swim, or what might happen.
It adds a lot of interesting strategy to races. So I will say that is definitely cool. It just it also opens up for race directors new terrain, right? Waterways and river that it might be difficult or impossible for them to get rental canoes or kayaks on. Suddenly that's all open. That said, I personally recognize that adding pack rafts to races becomes, another bit of a barrier to entry because pack rafts are expensive and they're really specific gear that a lot of people don't own. So, kind of balancing those things. A lot of races that have started adding pack rafting have incorporated non-pack rafting divisions that they try and keep the course as equal as they can. That's challenging, but so yeah, I think the pack rafting is super cool. It definitely adds a lot of interesting strategy and opens up new course design, but it's a challenge in terms of new racers getting into the sport and not having that.
So how long have you been racing for?
I've been racing for 5 years. I started adventure racing when I moved to Philly for grad school. My brother and my parents both live in the area, and my mom had been adventure racing for 20 something years. My older brother Jim, started racing while I was in college, and was racing at a pretty high level with Rootstock and with Bones. So when I ended up back in Philly for grad school, I started racing with Jim a little bit, and then eventually ended up joining the Rootstock squad.
Nice. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, your mom's been racing for like 20 years. She's like my generation of racers, like we go way back, right? The sort of wily veterans here. But, you know, we like to try and see the younger people getting involved in the sport. You know, you certainly had the family connection. But what do you think we can do to get more people, I don't know, you a millennial or a Gen Z? I don't even know. You're a kid, right? How can we get more kids like you into adventure racing?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I'm 27. I'm out of grad school, and frequently at races, I'm the youngest person there, which is just so mind-blowing to me and a little bit strange. I think that one challenge is just getting the word out to young folks, whether that's in college, after college. I think a lot of people graduate college and they're looking for fun, cool things to do. For me, I was a college athlete, and so afterwards, you know, I graduated and I was still interested in doing some kind of sports, you know, competitively. And so racing was a really cool, you know, opportunity. And so I think I don't have a great idea for how to do this, but just getting the word out to more young people in college or coming out of college, I think that they would find the sport really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for a long time it's been sort of niche and not well known. And I think that's starting to change, especially in the wake of Eco Challenge and a lot of people kind of finding out about adventure racing and getting interested in it. So yeah, I think generally like young folks who are interested in athletics and outdoors would love this sport if they found out about it, right?
Yeah. So where are all the kids? Where do the 20-year-olds do these days?
That's a good question.
I guess the same as the rest of us, right? We all been home for the past 2 years.
Yeah, especially in the days of the pandemic. Although I think actually like during the pandemic there were a whole bunch of virtual races, and I think that some people who maybe didn't even know what adventure racing was might have found their way into those virtual races. So that was a really cool way to start bringing some people into the sport in kind of a strange, unusual way, you know, not a true adventure race, but a cool, fun challenge for people to do in their own backyards during the pandemic.
Yeah. What sport did you do in college?
I rowed. I was a collegiate rower.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah.
So how did that fitness translate to adventure racing fitness?
It translated really well. So rowing is a very, very cardio intensive sport. So I graduated and I was just at peak cardio fitness and also had a lot of muscle. So it's funny, like my very first adventure race was like June after I graduated, and it was the Jolly Roger paddle. So it was a paddle specific race that Rootstock put on. There were some embedded foot sections, but it was mostly paddling. And I raced it with my brother and we ended up winning. And I recognized the kayak stroke is completely different than the rowing stroke that I was used to in college. But I was really strong and fit. And so we went into that race and just kind of crushed it and we had a good time.
Yeah, nice. How about the other skills, the mountain biking skills, running, trekking? How about those skills? How have you been able to develop those?
Yeah, so I had never mountain biked before I graduated college. And that's, you know, I pretty much right away wanted to start doing adventure races, but I didn't really know how to mountain bike. So I got a hand-me-down bike from my brother and started biking in the Wissahickon, which is a great park just outside of Philadelphia that has really awesome technical mountain biking. So yeah, I just started biking as much as I could, biking with experienced mountain bikers, following their lines, kind of learning how to pick good lines. So yeah, that was the skill that I really needed to learn to get good at adventure racing, because I had done plenty of running and trail running. I knew how to paddle, but mountain biking was totally new to me at the beginning. And since I picked up mountain biking, it's now one of my like favorite things in the world. I love mountain biking. I bike all the time.
What's training like for you? What's like a week in the life of Nicki's training schedule?
Yeah, well, right now it's a little crazy. So I've been in grad school. I just finished, but trying to jam in as much training as I can around a pretty busy work schedule. So yeah, I mean, I try to get out for an hour a day at least, and usually on weekends I'll do longer training sessions, so longer bike ride, longer run on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday, maybe one day off a week. Lately, I've it's been a little bit tougher just with work schedule. But yeah, I generally try to get out, maybe during the weekdays, maybe 4 days a week for like an hour, doing, mixing up biking, running, cross training. So I'll go to the climbing gym and do like climbing and strength. Um, and then on the weekends, I'll do like longer runs and longer bike rides.
Cool. So what's next on the race schedule? You eyeing up nationals this year or what?
Yeah, we are going to nationals. Rootstock is again sending two squads. So
Nice.
not planning to race together. We got a little bit of flack for that last time, but we'll see. We again, we have two really strong teams.
Yeah.
This is one of the joys of being with Rootstock is we have a really strong roster, and so any way you split us up, we're going to have two strong teams. There's really not a definitive A team and B team. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to nationals this year because where the race is being held and the uh, what we hear about the race organization is that it's going to be very, very difficult nav and
Mm.
technical, which really plays to our strength. We're a team that's really good at nav and strategy. We're not necessarily the fastest horses in the race in terms of just physical speed. But a race that's very navigation and strategy heavy is definitely going to play to our strengths. So really excited to see how that goes because there's going to be some really strong teams at nationals this year. It's going to be a good race.
Yeah. So do you think you'll get the maps for one of those squads or what?
So I'm racing with my brother Jim, who is an
Uh,
exceptional navigator. So Jim is probably going to be leading the nav. I wish, some races are starting to go to a model of offering two sets of maps.
yeah.
I recognize that's extra expense and extra paper. I do wish that more races went in that direction because, it number one, it benefits teams that have more good navigators, which I think, more people in the sport should be good at navigating. And number two, it
Yeah.
allows people to learn. If
Yeah.
you're on a team with an experienced navigator, but you never see the maps, it's hard for you to ever learn. So yeah, I think nationals, just one set of maps, probably Jim will be leading that, and I'm excited for that. But yeah, whenever I have an opportunity to nav or at least have a second set of maps and be backup nav, love to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think soon enough you'll be on maps in the national championship out there in the front of the pack, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, Nikki, thank you so much for joining us today and telling us all about the race in Maine and all the little tricks from some of the top people in the sport. It was great. It was great talking with you, and good luck at nationals.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. William Wildville Donahue here once again, saying adventure on.